Welcome to another episode of So You Woke Up, and I'm here with Vanessa Bright, and we're going to just have another conversation on how it is to live outside of the matrix, doing the different things, and just learning or adapting to stuff we thought was so real and it's not real, and trying to thrive and strive through that. So, what is your story on how you woke up or how that happened for you?
Well, first of all, I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited.
My journey of awakening has been both gradual and kind of at points intense and kind of immediate. So when I was 22, I was studying to do computer science in college. I was finishing college. I was good at it, but whatever, computer science. And then I met this acupuncturist, and all of a sudden, someone's listening to me, paying attention, being authentic, wanting to know how I really feel, addressing my issues. And I was like, oh my God, this is something. I was
Just
so
something
inspired.
different.
Pretty much a month later, I'm going to say on the spot, decided I was going to go to acupuncture school
Hmm.
and went like right out of college, forced myself to finish my degree so I'd have it. Went to acupuncture school. So that was my first awakening really was like the medical system is bullshit. It doesn't actually help you. They would I have hypothyroidism. They would have had me on meds forever. They would have whatever it is they would have done to me. I was like, I'm not having this. And my
Yeah.
acupuncturist really helped me with that to just be like, you don't have to go through the medical system. There are other ways to heal. So he really opened up my awareness that healing is possible without pills and the doctor isn't God,
Yeah.
just to cut to the quick, right?
Yeah.
So I went through this whole process. It's a very long training program. It's like five
Oh,
years,
yeah.
so intense. And this was in New York City where I lived. And so that was kind of like the first layer, right? Then as I was finishing acupuncture school, I was really depressed because I was like, how old? I was like 25 or something, 26, I can't even remember. Still super young. I'm like, I'm supposed to be a healer now. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I know the points, I know, but like, what? I'm a
What do I
healer?
do?
Oh. So and luckily, at the end of that training, we had a course called, what was it called? Clinic. And this really lovely therapist was teaching this course. And I was like, oh, I think I need me some of this. And so I had a classmate who said, maybe you should go see a therapist. You've been depressed for a while. And I said, okay. I went to see her. We developed this really amazing relationship. And immediately I was realizing how this is what's been missing from the acupuncture training, right? So it was very mechanical. I was in like the tier school where they just pump out acupuncturists. They don't really kind of go very deep emotionally. And she was connecting me emotionally. And because she taught at the acupuncture school, she also understood the holistic medicine model, right? And so I was talking to her about my patients and how, well, this patient wants 5 extra minutes and this patient doesn't want to pay me. You know what I mean? Like all these relational issues that we were starting to process. And I started realizing things about boundaries and things like that, right? When you don't know, right? Like
Yeah.
you're
And it's
so
funny, we think we don't. Some of us do know, but if we don't have someone that teaches us, everything we learn
right.
is teach. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's like if you don't know, it's like what are boundaries like? And that's one
Yeah,
of the things.
exactly.
So you're like, what's about? I need a boundary.
Right.
Okay, I want to do
Boundaries
that.
sometimes make people feel uncomfortable for a second,
Mm-hmm.
or a while, or maybe they leave altogether. But
Yeah.
if you need a boundary, anyway, stuff like that, right? And at the same time, in order to process why I was having a hard time, I had to deal with my own stuff, right? Like my mom's stuff, my family stuff, just
It
stuff.
just started just
It
pouring
was,
out.
yeah, it was like, holy shit. So this is a sad part of the story. This therapist wound up passing away very suddenly. And I had already been thinking about studying therapy because she inspired me. But when she passed away, first of all, completely shattered. I was like, really? I'm literally in the middle of all my shit and she dies on me. She had cancer. She didn't know how sick she was. So it's not like she was like withholding while declining. She just didn't
Yeah.
know. It
One of
just
those
happened.
fast ones.
Yeah, it happened over the course of a week. Like it was really,
Yeah.
really fast. So I was like, I'm going to be a therapist. So you'll see this kind of thread through my life of
Yeah.
being inspired by people and then going and following them and then feeling like, oh shit, did I just do this because I am trying to like imitate someone else? Is this me or is this not me? Right?
Or does this actually light me up and this is my path?
Right, right. So over the years, I've come to see all of those things as stepping stones,
Yes.
building my foundations. So I went to therapy school, another long, intense training, lots of therapy throughout as well with a new therapist, and lots of depth work. That's where I really delved into dream work, which I'll get to later because that's my thing.
That's
As
your
you know,
thing. The dream. Yeah.
dreams are amazing. So, yeah, I was always deepening dream work throughout that whole process. Went to therapy school, started a therapy practice. COVID happened. COVID was another awakening, kind of a lightning strike type of awakening, where first my husband and I were like a little nervous. What's going on? Are we going to get sick? Everybody's getting sick. And then we started like waking up to all of the garbage around it and how it was a means of control. So I won't go into that whole thing, but there was another kind of this relation that maybe the government isn't there to protect us. Maybe the
Yeah.
government is doing other things, and has
Yeah.
other motives, right? So COVID happened, my practice went fully online. My husband and I moved away from New York City, still upstate New York, like we stayed in New York for a few years. So my practice went fully online. I did have an office for a little bit, but then COVID, right? So, and I started feeling miserable. And I didn't know if it was the Zoom or the what. I was
Yeah.
listening to I'm gonna hopefully get her name right, Sabine,
Yeah.
your
Sabine.
interview with
Sabina.
Sabine or
Yeah.
Sabina.
Sabina.
And she
Yeah.
was like, I was miserable and I didn't know why. And I was really relating,
Because you feel like, but this is what's supposed to, you're like, this is where I'm supposed to, like, this makes sense. I'm a therapist. This is what lit me
right?
up. Now I'm doing this.
I
And
have a,
then you're like, but why am I so miserable? Like,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
so your brain, it like, so it's like, it's different than like knowing you're in a bad relationship or knowing that like something is really toxic in front of you. But when something doesn't appear to be
Right.
bad or toxic or whatever, which is why the programming, I always talk about the programming that we're taught. For
Yeah.
you were like, well, maybe even though I'm not supposed to feel bad for this, I got
Yeah.
to suck it up. This isn't bad. And, but you still felt it in your, like you still felt. And so
I
that's where
did.
you're, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, exactly. I was racking my brain trying to understand, am I avoiding something? Is it because I don't want to really lean into whatever my clients are bringing? Is it, what is it? I could not. I went in every kind of circle you can imagine. I was getting more and more miserable. My sessions were good. Like when I'd be in front of a client, we'd be doing deep work. We're getting somewhere. They're healing. Yet, in between sessions, I was like, something sucks. So this is where another lightning bolt comes into my life, where a friend of mine invited me on an ayahuasca retreat. And I had heard about ayahuasca before, but I never really researched, didn't know very much about it. Just knew it was like a psychedelic, basically. That was the
Yeah.
extent of knowledge. And I had been like very anti-drugs, very anti-everything. I was like a goody two-shoes. I'm an immigrant from the Soviet Union, and so we're taught like you be a good girl,
Yeah.
that was one of the things I had
I
to
mean, it
unlearn.
was very much in your programming. Yeah.
Very much. Still unlearning that. Learning to be
Yeah.
irreverent, learning to just fuck it.
Yeah. Just
But
be you.
yeah, but um I did have an experience with cannabis where I'd never had any ever. My husband and I were on our honeymoon in Colorado. That was my first like little step into Colorado. It was in Cortez. It was what is it, the southwestern corner of Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
We were on the Utah, Arizona, Nevada kind of wing of a road trip, and so we touched Colorado for a second, And we had one night there, and I was like, I want to try some cannabis. I literally just thought I was going to have the giggles for a few hours. And I went onto this like psychedelic journey. And my husband is was very familiar with both cannabis and psychedelic journeys, like what do they look like? And he was like, "Oh, we're doing this." It wasn't like we're
Let's
gonna,
go.
because he smoked some. We were just gonna
Yeah.
have a little like easy night. He's like, "Oh no, we're doing this." I had like ego stuff, like my I could see my ego first as separate from who I am without. It was so powerful, and I was cried most of the night. It was so intense. And that was my foray, right,
Yeah.
into plant medicine. So then fast forward not that long, probably like a year. A year from that experience, a friend of mine, maybe even less, a friend of mine said, I'm going on this. Actually, I think she was like helping organize this retreat. But anyway, she was going to go and she's like, do you want to go? And she had invited me previously, and it was always like a, what's ayahuasca, or like, why
You want
would
me
I
to do what?
want me to do what? Exactly. And I had this like jolt go through my body. I felt it now just as I said it. I
That's
looked at
that
my
go.
husband and I was like, what just happened? He's like, I think you're going to Mexico.
That's happened to me last. That's what happened to me last year. I mean, not with the
Wow.
ayahuasca, but like you're going on this retreat, which
I
I went
think
on
you're
last
doing
year.
this. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was like, how are we going to afford it? He's like, I don't care.
that was my husband.
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
like, I
do
don't
it.
care. You're supposed to be at this
Yeah.
retreat. Okay.
So that was like a full-on turning point in my life. And it's so interesting because it wasn't from any one specific thing that happened in the journey.
Mm-hmm.
It was the whole totality. So the journey too, I had a very powerful release of a deep abandonment wound. That was really it was, had I not had a facilitator help me with that, I don't think I would have gone through that. But this was one of those cosmic, karmic soul meetings.
Yep.
And we sat and I sobbed on her shoulder. I said, I'm too scared to go back in there and into the medicine space. And she's like, you're afraid of being alone in there. I mean, it's not like you're alone in there, but it's dark and you're on your cot and you're just lying there and experiencing the journey. And so she's like, this is abandonment trauma. And I sat there and I cried it out and I processed it. Seriously, like 10 years of therapy in one night. Very hard. It's like 10 years of therapy compacted with all the emotions,
Yeah.
you
That's why
know?
they're so powerful. It will retrain so
Yeah.
much.
But so that really was powerful, right? But that in itself wasn't what changed my life. It was stepping into the medicine space, watching the shaman, watching the facilitators, watching the whole constellation of how it's set up, right? I mean, the songs, you can't see it on this view, but I have a guitar. I'm going to show you my guitar because she loves being on camera.
Uh,
You can see her. Like, I started playing music after that journey.
and did you play before that?
Had never played before. I sang before that, but I'd never
Hmm.
played. The people that I met and I'm still close with, everything started unfolding for me in the direction of plant medicine work, including like integration work with clients, right? Like that kind of thing. So nothing is the same in my life except for my husband since that journey,
When
right?
was this?
So this was in December 2020,
Okay. Yeah.
not
So,
that long ago,
yeah,
right? Not that long
couple
ago.
years. Yeah.
But since that point, I said, you know what? My therapy practice is stifling me. It's killing me. I just could not. And
You're like, oh, I get it now.
I'm out of here. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Finally, it wasn't like a single, like, oh, I get why it's killing me
No,
now.
it just made more sense that it's killing me and I don't want to die, so I need to do something to live.
Yeah. And I also did start realizing that I have a lot more spiritual gifts. I have a lot more that I want to offer that I really can't offer in my current therapy like setup, right?
Yeah.
Working on Zoom. Oh, go ahead.
No, you're good.
I thought you were going to say something. Yeah, working on Zoom and doing basically like I mean, we were doing deep emotional work, right? I definitely don't want to minimize the work that was happening. But I also always felt, always knew that there was another level that both
Yeah,
I was afraid to go to, and therefore I had attracted the kind of clients that were afraid to go
that's where
to that.
I'm at right now.
What's that? That's where you are?
That's where I am right now. Like,
Mm.
and like the fact that you're talking about this, like literally the last like week, like the fact that you're talking about this of like going deeper and yeah, I'm
Wow.
just gonna say that.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I want to hear about that sometime. Yeah, so since then I also stepped into shamanic training and all things shamanic, plant medicine training and all things plant medicine. I haven't sat with ayahuasca again because there hasn't been the right opportunity yet, but I have sat
It'll
with
come.
mushrooms and that was very difficult. Like none of my journeys were easy and none of my journeys were like people describe these like at least one point of, some sort of illumination or aliens or just like something glorious or picture. Like I got nothing. I just sit there and vomit and it just
Yeah.
like really struggle and my ego's in the way and I really hate myself in those moments and I'm just like they're so hard, but they're so profound, even in just
Yeah.
knowing that you can go through something difficult.
Yeah. And I think something I feel this when I saw you and added you randomly and was like, please talk to me. Um, I think that's something we have in common because the one time that I did it, it was, I don't even know. It was like I didn't see the things or whatever, but something happened. And
Yeah,
it was hard. And it was like, I think for same thing, something for you and me, maybe something, and maybe other people that are listening to this that don't have
yeah,
experiences is that I think that there is stuff that we are meant to do big things, maybe, and it really has to get some stuff out of the way.
yeah,
And especially you're an immigrant, so like even like coming through here, the good girl thing, or even with guys, the good boy thing, like don't cause interruption because all men are bad, whatever they say or whatever. But it's like to me, I feel like one day it will be that way for you. It will be that you'll get there. But the thing is that I have a story of like I had this last year. I pulled this tree, this inside of me, which was self worth, and there's more, but like non self worth. And it took me months in the mental space to get there, and I had to go through weeds. I had to go through weird poisonous stuff and finally get to the tree, rip it out, put the unicorn horns in there, whatever, whatever. I do that. But to get there to that and have this thing I have now, I had to go through the sludge and this stuff to get there.
yeah,
And so I think that's what happens as you do these. And as, like you said, it's been about a year. So as you do these and as you go through these, especially if you have a lot of programming, a lot of things, you have soul contracts or things you were meant to learn and they're stuck in your body, that when you do these things, that's what it's going for first.
mhm,
Because especially even in the last 2 years, this light has been trying to get the density out of us.
yeah,
So by doing the plant medicine, by doing these journeys or even any of it, like, and that's the thing with weed will take you to the fourth dimension. And if you've never been there and you have a lot of trauma, you're going to cry and then
right,
you're going to feel better because you actually experienced higher than the three dimension. You know what I mean? Like
right, right.
physical, but it doesn't mean it's not painful to grow. I mean, when you're a kid and your knees are like, you're like, why are my knees hurting so bad? And then all of a sudden, in like a week, you're like 2 inches taller.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, ayahuasca is known as like she like the first times like there's a cleanse. There's a scan. She scans your system and there's some cleansing. And this is why most retreats will have more than one night of ceremony, right? So
Yeah.
the first night is basically kind of like a clean out and it's like on the second night when you go deeper. And I tell you what, I was too scared. I
Yeah.
was just that first night, and I think Sabine was also talking about this at one point. She was like, um,
Why am I here?
what am I doing here? Get me out of here. I was like, what have I done? And I was
Yeah.
probably like maybe 3, 4 hours in. So there's still more hours left and you're fully in the medicine. And I'm like, this is horrible. Why did I do this? This is the worst. I am never coming back. Thank
Yeah.
God I don't have to do this again. And there was more to the retreat, but there was another ceremony the following night that was optional.
Yeah.
And I was like, hell to the no, I am
Yeah.
not doing that. And, I think there are no mistakes. And so I don't feel like I made a mistake by not doing that. But I have a feeling that had I done that, I would have gone deeper into another level of that healing process.
Yeah. And I think, but I think that's where I talk about this all the time, is the grace thing. And if we do believe in divine timing, it's like, and I think part of the reason too where we think we could have gone deeper and we could be farther, and I don't think we're supposed to be. I think we're right where we're supposed to be. But
Yeah.
what do we see now that we can see everything from the internet? We see those people that did the second one and are living the life. We see the people that choose to do the things that we were too scared to do at the time, breaking through or doing the things. And then what do we feel? We feel the guilt. We feel shame. We feel like I should have done that for myself. When we really got to come back to ourselves and be like, nope, there is a reason. Just like, it's like I should have gone to the store that day and I didn't. Semi could applaud right into your thing. It could have been for you, something would have been where maybe it would have been too much and something in your brain would have snapped.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know.
you never know.
It could have been, you never know, but everything is aligning the way that it's supposed to. It doesn't mean that we don't feel like, well, I could be farther.
Yeah.
And it's funny you speak about that too, because I did my one journey and I have not done one since because I have been so scared out of my mind for something to happen again. And it's getting so like, okay, I'm like, I live in Colorado now. Like,
Yeah.
hello, I'm in the belt of it, like the psychedelic belt or whatever. But yeah, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's led me like that was the universe was like, you're going to go live in Colorado. I'm like, okay, so I have to believe that when it's the time and it's ready, it's going to happen again. This is what it is, and I believe that that's going to happen to you.
Right.
And since you've done it once before, maybe you needed to train your nervous system for the next time. Maybe you needed to do some stuff in between that to prepare for the next heave that it's going to give you,
Yeah.
instead of having like psychedelic burnout.
I do
Which,
see that too, people doing kind of too much and just like
mm-hmm.
jumping from ceremony to ceremony and not actually integrating.
Not
I will
integrating.
say
And maybe this was your integrating.
I am integrating all the journeys I've done, one ayahuasca journey and two mushroom journeys, and I still have things from each of those that come to mind and that I process and that I, like the mushroom journeys were especially the second one were very difficult. And so I'm still kind of going like, what was really going on? How was I gripping? How was I resisting? How was I avoiding? Whatever it was, that is integration, you know?
Because that's what, once you figured it out, you can find the solution that's best for that and eradicate it. And that's the
Yeah.
whole point.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. That's what they say, like with the love and light, not having the shadow part of
Mm-hmm.
that, of the bypassing.
Yeah.
It's, you can't bypass.
Yeah.
You can't just, I mean, you can. I mean, no, you can't. I mean, to be
Of
honest
course.
with you, you
And people
can.
do.
You have it's just, it does not work.
Yeah.
You
If you're
can though.
the more you're bypassing, the more you're going to need your addictive things in order to
Mm-hmm.
continue coping, right? Because if you're
Yeah.
avoiding who you are, on a deep level, right? That's always knocking because that's why we're here is to discover it and live it.
And
If
find our
you're
way back.
If you're avoiding it, you're going to have to be numb. And unfortunately, the way it seems to be structured is there's a core of who we are, there's a bunch of crap on top, which is our trauma and our programming, and and
Yeah.
we're outside, and you kind of have to go from the outside in.
You have to go through,
Yeah, exactly.
like literally go through. Like there's no going around, because if you go around, all you're doing is going circles around yourself.
Yeah.
And it's an endless loop of
Yeah.
bull, like just
Exactly.
endless. And so, but I want to touch on this too with you saying like the second one, like these were terrible.
Hmm.
But have you noticed, even with the terribleness, even with this being like, what the heck? Like you're more awake
Yeah.
and more fulfilled
Yeah.
than being asleep
Well,
or
100%.
not.
Yeah. Well, like I said, just even the fact that you can go through something difficult and survive and come out the other side, there's a sense of accomplishment just in that, right? And I'm not saying we have to be masochistic in that way of like, let's do
No.
hard things and have them hurt and then
Yeah,
go,
no.
look, I survived. But just that alone, is there. But then there's this other, the medicines are doing their work, right? Had done their work in there. And yeah, this risk I took, first of all, moving across the country. I'm an
Same.
immigrant already, right? Lived in New York, didn't ever think I'd leave New York City. I left New York City, we lived in upstate New York. That was a big deal. But this, not only to move across the country, but also to leave my practice, that was stifling me because I was actually I created the kind of box where I couldn't grow. And
Yeah.
so to say, I'm going to break that box, get out of that box, and find a different one or find a new container so that I can grow. The risk involved, right? No net. We don't have a lot of money. My husband doesn't have a lot of money. Like we're on a
This is my
shoestring,
story right now.
on a shoestring. And just, you know what? I have to do it. I have to do it. And so the fact that I'm learning how to trust spirit and trust the guidance and trust, my guitar says play, I play, you know, like,
Surrender.
I go into shamanic journeys and my guides say this or that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That in itself, that was not me. I
Yeah.
was the ego kind of, I was always a nice, like I said, goody two shoes. I was always a nice person, but I was very shy. My voice was pretty soft. I was, I've always been overweight, so I've always been kind of like trying to hide it, trying to be like small and stay off to the side. Don't anybody notice me. Like all of that's changed in,
Yeah.
since the ayahuasca journey and then on. Just like, you know what? If not now, when? Like seriously.
Really? And you only moved here, what, February?
Yeah, two
I
months
only
ago.
moved here in October.
That's
Like we
wild.
literally, and it's so funny if you watched my video
Mm,
about how I'm the first queen, how I'm supposed to be the example. If you go on there, that's it's in there where they got this vision last year where it was like, you need to go first. And it's
mm.
right here. Like I left my town, like it literally was yelling at me, sell your stuff and move. And here I am. And here you are, what, 20 minutes from me?
I don't know where you are, so, but yeah, sure.
I am in Johnstown. So I'm 20 minutes from you.
That's
Yeah.
wild.
So yeah. So it's like, and now we're gonna meet in person, on
Yeah,
Thursday. Like it's just to me this stuff. It's like when you follow what
yeah,
but the surrender thing. Like you and me, we have. I was like, what am I gonna do in Colorado? Like, what do you
right.
mean? Like, what do you mean? And it was like, you gotta go. And I was like, all right. I mean, literally, my whole drive here, we drove from California because you're New York to here,
We
California to here. That's
drove.
kind of like, And the whole time here, I was gonna shit my pants. I was like, my stomach hurt so bad
Yeah,
for 3 days. I worked driving. I mean, and I was like, I'm on the side. I'm up by Vail, like so. I'm in Colorado, up by Vail, and We pulled over at the Starbucks up there, and I am like by our cars, and we're like by this thing by the Star, and I'm just like looking at my husband, and I was like crying and like I felt like my innards were just being ripped out, and I was like looking at him and I was like, I'm gonna get back in this car and I'm gonna keep driving. I'm gonna keep driving. I don't know what the hell. And I was like, but whatever it is, it's gonna be. And I was just like in pain and crying, but like in my soul, I'm like, this is the way. And I'm like,
wow.
okay,
So
yeah, it
that's the
was.
amazing part, right? Knowing the difference. Like that was you knowing what was ego and like the ego was
Oh,
like contract, right? And what was
oh.
just saying we're doing this.
Yeah, it was like I could see it so like like the two shoulders. The little things that sit on your shoulder. I was like,
Mm,
y'all, you need to, you need to just chill. Like,
pipe
and
down.
it's been this way since two, yeah, since 2023. And you want to know what's so funny is that you said you went on that retreat in December 2020. In
Yeah.
December of 2023, I moved into an RV.
Mm,
And for me, that was like literally doing the exact opposite of my entire life. By
mm,
doing that, I was able to live at the coast for a whole 7 months. And then I'm here. Like, it was like, what? So but it was none of it made sense. None of it made sense. It still doesn't make sense as much, but it makes sense to my heart and my soul.
yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense in the real world, or whatever this world is. It doesn't make sense at all. And that's why I think where you and me are struggling, where it was like, but I need money, but I need this.
Yeah.
But then I'm like being provided for in like a weird way.
Right.
So like there's been chances where I was like, we're not going to be able to pay anything. All of a sudden things would come.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And so I'm like, I know that part that's in my soul, that thing that knows inside of me that this is exactly where I'm supposed to be, is what's driving this, and all I have to do is surrender. It's not easy, but surrender and trust that source, universe, God, whoever has got it and is co-creating with me, because I am taking the aligned action in myself. I am showing up every day. I am opening my mouth every day. I am doing the work every day while giving myself grace to, because human condition, to get to where it is, and it's unfolding. And I think the part that feels like it's not here yet, or it might not work or whatever, is because of the human thing of where we're just taught with the lack, we're taught with
Mhm.
that. So we're constantly going to fight that. And I mean, you and me are in our 40s, like we lived that way for so long, where
Right.
it's like, we're like, okay, but this is like a real habit, like it's in my DNA, like, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Working through
ripping in.
this exact thing right now too, the lack and the reworking the beliefs around money and scarcity and all of that. But and you're talking, you said, it doesn't make sense. And what I was going to say was it doesn't make sense in the Matrix,
It doesn't make sense in the Matrix,
you know,
not one bit. But
everybody,
in like,
are you moving here because you got a job or you have family here? And I'm like, no, and no.
I literally, people are like, why are you come here? Me and Larry look them in the face and be like, the universe.
The universe.
That's our answer. Why are you guys
Yeah,
here? The universe.
I would say we felt called. So
Yeah.
same idea.
Some people don't think Colorado. They're like, Colorado, I get it. There's lots of mountains there. Sometimes
Hmm.
it keeps it
Oh,
chill. Yeah. It's like, I don't. But I like being able to see nature everywhere,
me too.
but like it's where you're called. Like some people are called to go in the middle of cities, and it doesn't make sense to them because they're like, oh, I grew up over here, or my entire friends and family like live on a farm, but everything in me needs to be in the middle of a hustle bustle city. Like I need
Yeah,
to be here, like, because that's their calling. Like your body, your soul will tell you where to go. It will
yeah,
tell you what to do. It will tell you all the things.
yeah,
But we're so trained to not listen to that because it doesn't make sense, and you can't logically put it into logic. And so it's like, well, you can't do that. And I've been doing the non logic for about 2 years, and I have things that were stuck with me that I thought were never going to leave are gone. Like
yes,
situations, people, the types of people, the types of situations, they're not coming my way anymore. Like, and it's
yeah,
all because I'm following what makes no sense in the Matrix, in the old paradigm, whatever you want to call it.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
same.
Do you have like any abilities that have popped up for you, like when you've been doing the shaman stuff or whatever, like something you say you do the dream work?
Hmm. Yeah, the dream work I've been developing for a long time, And it started with just curiosity in my own dreams, right? And I've added more and more, I'm gonna say tools, but like layers. I did Jungian dream work, and then I worked with a shamanic practitioner where we did mostly dream work together for like 3 years. And so I went really deeply on my dreams, and my dreams started becoming shamanic. So as you work on them, they deepen and they change and they evolve. And so now I have this kind of uncanny ability to analyze people's dreams kind of on the spot, which is why I have my bi-weekly group with that,
Where you
where,
analyze a dream, where
you know,
it just comes to, like it's like now the
yeah.
second nature thing.
So, yeah, second nature. It's an interesting combination of knowledge and intuition with dreams because there is a baseline of knowledge and people can learn it. And I do have an online course that I have like pre-recorded. I'm still working on the next modules, but where you can learn a lot of the skills and analyze your own dreams. And also as I listen to people or as I kind of sit with a typed up dream or what have you, I will get intuitions and I will get hunches and things like that where they're not coming from my brain and they're not coming from like, oh, well, this means this and that kind
Not
of
the
thing.
logical, the
Yeah,
dream book of like a sandwich means that
exactly.
your father
Yeah,
did. Yeah, like I'm not
exactly.
saying that's anything, but like yeah, what the
Right.
interpretive dreams have been. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it is a combination. And so I have been tapping more into my intuitive capacities. And that was partly what was happening with my therapy practice would be I'd be sitting with clients that I've been working with for years and years and years, and I'd have an intuition about
And
them
you're like,
that
I know.
I'm like, I can't say this
Say
out
it
loud.
out.
And it would be unethical. Even if I said, hey, I'm kind of psychic and, I have a thing for, do you want me to? It would hurt the relationship. It would really be
And
not
that's why you had to get out of the
right.
box.
Yeah.
And just what's cool about this though is you have literally, that means what you're doing with the dreams or wherever you keep going on with.
Yeah.
All of this schooling that you have makes it that you can take all of these modalities, put it into one, and provide
Right.
people with just such a in-depth thing. And
Yeah.
that's why you had the stepping stones.
Yeah.
You are supposed to do something very big with this as the new earth is here. As this, because as people are waking up, and this is a perfect example. So my husband stopped smoking weed. He smoked weed for like 17 years. I don't, maybe that's like something like that, right? And he never dreamed. And then he quit. And his dreams are
Yeah.
insane now. Also, people that are waking up having spiritual awakenings, right? They stop numbing and
Mhm.
stuff like that. So they start dreaming. And they're like, what the heck is this meaning to me?
Right.
And someone like you could be like, okay, this is what my guide. It's just like it's just
Yeah.
like a psychic reading. Whether a guide's telling you, ancestors tell you, whatever. It's the
Right.
same thing of being like, or someone's having a repeating dream over and over, and they just can't seem to get to where they want to be with that. You're like, here I
Yeah.
am. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. It's exactly. I will say too that cannabis is known as like the dream inhibitor. Like it will take away your dreams. I used to try to take CBD or a little bit of THC to sleep, and all my dreams disappeared. And I was like, nope, that's not okay.
you know what's so funny is that never happened to me. I dreamed, and I smoked weed for a little while there, and I dreamed.
Okay.
I have never not dreamed
That's
ever.
awesome.
And
Yeah,
it's so
some
funny
people
though,
are
because
wired a little differently.
yeah, oh yeah, no, and I think it's because while I was reading, I just learned that I was a Venetian starseed, and one of the Venetian things is that they have really intense dreams. So I believe that little part of me is like, oh, it doesn't matter what it is, you're gonna dream. Okay, that's okay. No, I there was a part when I was taking Ambien, which Ambien makes you black out,
Hmm.
right? I wouldn't remember things that I would do before I go to bed. Like I'd wake up with the chips in my bed or something like that, but I would still dream.
Yeah, that's pretty rare.
So, yeah,
You're pretty unusual in that. Most of the time for people if they do in whatever form if they I mean, I think of cannabis as actually a sacred plant.
Mm-hmm.
It can be just like nicotine can be, like tobacco is a sacred plant, but can be used in a way that kills you,
Mm-hmm.
same with cannabis, right? Can be used in a reverent way, can be used consciously or not. So I recently learned this, and I just put this in my course too, because I thought it was so interesting that cannabis pushes the stuff that would be your dream into your conscious awareness while you're under like the influence, right? While you're with that plant, like if you've smoked or
Mm-hmm.
if you've taken an edible or something, the dream stuff is up here, like is present for you. And
That's
that's
why people get the anxiety.
people have the anxiety, people have the ideas, and the connections start to get made, or, they have all these like images or fantastical thoughts or feelings or whatever. It's because they're dreaming more while they're awake. And then there's nothing for them to dream when they go to sleep because they've already done it while they were awake.
That's
So,
so interesting.
yeah.
And, but
So,
if you're not using it, and that's why I think this is so interesting. And that's why the people, when they smoke, and they would feel better. And when you use it like ceremonially or whatever, and you get those ideas and you take them into the thing. But when you're on the couch watching TV, and let's say you're getting really high and it's trying to come out, but you're like focused on like cartoons
right.
or whatever, like everything's interrupted. And then when you come out and you're not high anymore and you haven't processed anything, and then you have all of that movie in you, of course you're going to be like, what the heck is happening?
Yeah.
Or when you're not dealing with anything and you're smoking constantly and it's trying to elevate you,
Yeah.
and it's like, why am I doing this? Or it does this. And I've seen this where some people who use cannabis and they actually grow, like they start doing things and they actually don't stop the growth. But there's some that really gets them somewhere, and then they'll continue to smoke as once they get and they think, oh, I'm here, and it wants them to grow more because the dreams and the messages are coming up, and they don't,
Yeah.
and that's where the anxiety comes too, because
Exactly.
you're having the real time of the
Yeah.
messages.
It's
Yeah,
all about
so
intention, right? Like with any plant
intention,
medicine, right? You can
even
take
with food.
even with food, with everything, right? You take a, like oat straw or nettles or any kind of like just herb, plant, like for tea, just a regular tea, like you can have an intention that is, you're asking the plant, you're talking to the plant. Plants are conscious, they have intelligence, they're going to hear you, they're going to understand you, they're going to do what you're asking them to do. So same with cannabis, right? You can have that. Oh,
No, it's
uh,
okay.
you can have that like deep ceremonial experience. I mean, I did my first time, but I was just, kind of that was my soul step, that was
Yeah,
meant if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have sat with ayahuasca and my life wouldn't have changed. So cannabis was my kind of foray into it, and I stumbled.
yeah.
I
They
stumbled
say
in.
it's a stepping.
Yeah. So, yeah, intention is everything. And the other thing I wanted to say, I forget what you said, but it just kind of jogged this thought about how um, the plant medicines, and the dreams equally, they are trying to they're trying to take you past where your ego and your programming is into the unconscious, the stuff that you don't know about, the shadow, the golden shadow, all the stuff, right? And to show you who you really are. And so working with dreams or working with plant medicines or both, right, is a way to kind of step past what you think you are, the thoughts that you tend to think about yourself, the way that you experience yourself, right, and see something else and see like another layer, another aspect. And in the same way that we resist plant medicine, in the journey, right? Everybody has that resistance until they're really good at that kind of flow, I'm going to say. It's this, in the same way where you have a dream, you're going to have resistance to the dream. You're going to say, oh, that doesn't mean anything. Or you're going to say, I already know what this means, or you're going to say, oh, that part doesn't matter, right? Like all the different ways. That's the ego that wants to say, no, 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 don't go there. Don't go there. It's too big. It's too deep. It's too scary. It's too whatever. And you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
everything that we are.
Danger, danger.
Yeah, and we have all these allies, right? You have the plant medicines, whether they're psychedelic and theogenic or not, right? Do you know about Egyptian blue lotus? Yeah, so it's not supposed to be and it's not an entheogen. I drank some of that tea. I was like, "Oh my God." Oh my
Yeah.
God. It was like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so
Yep.
every plant, Egyptian, for those who don't know it, right? Egyptian blue lotus is a plant that's used in dream work, and it's used in spiritual work, and it helps you connect to your higher self. But if you have that intention, it'll take you like pretty much anything, You
Yeah.
could sit with a stone, you could sit with a blade of grass, you could sit with anything, a
Yeah.
song, right? And if you have that intention, it'll take you deeper if you're willing to go deeper,
Yes.
And
Yes.
dream
And I
work,
think that's where we need to go, is
yeah,
deeper, especially right now. The dreams are unfiltered. Like my husband's been having some really crazy ones. He's like, this makes no sense. And like I'm getting some pings from it, and he's starting to getting some pings from it, but it's showing you things that you might not see when you're awake in the confines
right,
of the 3D. And so it is very important sometimes to try to analyze them, even if that's you in the morning talking to your partner or making a voice note or writing it down, whatever
yep,
your thing is, and and just trying to do that. I think right now, especially right now, with so many people waking up and so many people's things, the dreams is showing you what to do in your awake life now too. And you might not like it. You'd be like, that's not something I would do in normal life. Well, the thing about dreams too, dreams is all about symbolism. So
mm,
it's like, yeah, you can wake up and be like, I definitely would not have done that. And like, I definitely would have, but what does it mean?
right,
And
exactly.
like a perfect example is, I'm going to do this and then we can wrap it up. But there
Sure.
was the other night, me and Larry had the same dreams at the same time about each other. But
Wow.
I, every once in a while, will have this dream about Larry. And in this dream, something is trying to take him away from me. So, one of the dreams it was where this girl, and it's usually some kind of girl, some kind of person or group of people, and he gets like really like weird, like, and I like can see this, right? It's like he's asleep, like drugged asleep. And one of the dreams I had it where this girl gave him some of the dream, and I get him, and I had to get him to throw up. And literally in the dream, I was like, you need to throw, and he was like throwing up white all in my dad's like kitchen in my dream, like his old house. And I was like getting it out. And then like I mean, we're talking like exorcist vomit, right? And then he comes back and I was like, are you okay? And he was like, what happened in the dream, right? And I was like, all right. So I've had all these dreams where I saved him from who's ever trying to do this. This last dream I had was like, and I think a part of the fear too of me of like losing him after finding him. But this last one, something happened and it was weird because it was like it happened in this basement. And it was like I remember all of a sudden there's a toilet over like by the kitchen, and I'm like, why is the toilet right here? Like it shouldn't be here. And then I was like, Larry, I was like, babe, Larry. And then I realized I was like, he's not in here. And everything in me started to like feel hot. And I started screaming. I was like, Larry, I was screaming. And for some reason, it was like here, but a regular house. And it was outside. And I looked outside and there was a bunch of like stoners. I'm going to say stoners. And they were outside with him. And he got out of this van and he was like toasted, like super high. And this was very weird. Like, and it was like now, and I was like, I couldn't get to him. And then like I finally got to him and like all of a sudden it changed. They were in this room. I had to get past all of these people and they were like, he doesn't love you. You're so ugly. And I'm like trying to get to him. I'm trying to get to him and I get to him and I like something happened and then all of a sudden it's me sitting and I see it and I'm watching a TikTok of us saying we're going separate ways, and it was like a weird like thing, and it was like I could see him sitting there, and he was like, yeah, we're just going separate ways. And I'm sitting next to him being like, yeah, but me knowing that I couldn't be with him because I, he had, whatever it was had gotten him, and he went back to sleep, and I was awake and couldn't. And I woke up and I was weeping. This was like 4 days, oh, maybe last week. Yeah. And he held me, and he had another dream similar, kind of like in this something like that. But and I woke up and I look at him and I go, I know, first of all, this is a fear of abandonment. I know that I have this thing. I know that there's things trying to keep me apart. I'm getting bigger and stuff like that. And in this one, I couldn't save us until the end of the dream. Okay. End of the dream. All of a sudden, I'm sitting with him at a diner, because we love to go to those diners, with the really good breakfast. And he's sitting across from me, and he's holding these two shirts that we thought that we had ruined. And this lady comes out and she sits next to me, and she looks at me and she's like, she was like, I just love your guys' vibe. And she was an older lady with white hair. You could tell she was like, I'd owned the restaurant. And I was like, oh, we have so many matching shirts. We're just not wearing them right now. Something had happened. And it was weird me saying that, because I was like, I didn't know why he was there, but we were together. I could feel that. And then she looked at me with this intensity, because she had to go do something. And she looked at me, and I felt my entire body like relax. And it was like she was a protector.
Yeah.
So it like showed me 16 different things in this one thing. And like this thing of like, we're meant to be, I have to trust that I'm protected, that I don't have to save him, that I don't but
Yeah.
it was like, what the hell did I just dream about?
A lot.
So
You dreamt
yeah,
about a
a
lot.
lot. Yeah. So, and my dreams are like that every night since I was 5.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, but for some people who are like waking up now and they're doing this, it's like the dreams are going to be weird. And it made no sense. I was like, yeah, who cares if he's like in a van, doing this, or oh, that's not something he would do in real life. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with something that I need to know.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah, it's not
kind of
about
figured
him.
out.
It's not about
Yeah.
him. Every character in a dream is you, or reflections of aspects of you. That blonde, sorry, not blonde, but the white hair.
Hmm.
Anybody with white hair or blonde hair in dreams are our guides.
Yeah.
They're
And she
angels and guides.
she looked into my soul. Like, and you know what? I can't keep and in this dream, and she looked at me, I looked at her, and it was like the whole restaurant stopped in time, and then it
Yeah,
came back and she went, and I was like, I felt this like, oh,
right.
okay.
Yeah,
But if I would have woke up and been like, oh, of course he would never do, like, that's not whatever, I wouldn't
yeah,
have sat with it. And I let myself cry on him for like 20 minutes. I was
mm,
like, this was intense. And he let
yeah,
me. And then I was like, all right, I think I worked through that. Like, what the heck? But
yeah,
instead of trying to be like, oh, um, that isn't important or whatever. Yeah. So this
yeah,
is the thing. The dreams are so real. They really are showing you certain things. And if you don't know what they mean, a lot of intuitives can help you with that, because we are
right.
tapped in.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go in, and like I said, all these things, some of it you know what they mean, and some of them you kind of know what they mean, but you have to sit with it and you have to let it you have to sit with it. You have to take some time with it. And some
Yeah.
people don't have vivid dreams or lots of dreams. They'll have like a little scrap of a dream. That has equal amounts that you can kind of mine out of it and get from it.
Yeah. And some
You
people
know,
don't need to go through what I do through. Some people don't, that's not their purpose,
yeah.
to have really intense, ridiculous dreams. It's mine.
Yeah.
Sometimes people get to have like, a small one, and they can build on that. So no, everyone's
Right.
different. Please, anyone listen to this, take that. Just because
Right.
you're not dreaming 16 different things, or you're not seeing whatever. No, these are all to you, and have that as you.
Yeah.
And if you want someone to help you with your dreams, find a dream person. Like, you know,
Like,
source, so
yeah.
what is your advice to anyone on this path, whether they're just waking up or whatever? Like, what would something you would be like, this is my wisdom for you on this path?
Well, one we just talked about, which is working with your dreams, because it is a really incredible pathway past what your ego thinks, past your structures, past who you think you are. And kind of a bigger piece of advice would be to learn how to work with and understand who are you as really you versus what is the chatterbox ego thing that is just kind of really always trying to keep you level. We need it. I'm not saying you get rid of the ego. Please don't get rid of your ego, because that leaves
Ego
you
evolution.
psychotic. That's where you can't function, right? We need to be able to function. But learning what the ego is versus what is the authentic voice, that's
Yes.
so. And I had two cannabis journeys where I was like literally watching this happen. I would have this authentic, like clear, clean thought, or feeling or just memory, something, right? Like, and I kid you not, split second later, the ego is like, and then you should do this and you should journal about it. Or maybe I should take some supplements and maybe I should go to the bathroom and maybe I should, like, nonstop,
So real.
so like ridiculous. Exhausting. Those journeys were very exhausting for me because I'm like, shut the F up. Like, I
Yeah.
can't. But it was such an incredible education
Yeah.
and the difference. Now I'm so grateful for that because
Now you can tell.
now I can tell. Sometimes it still drives me crazy,
Oh, yeah. Well,
because
yeah.
the chatterbox does not shut up.
Yeah.
And
That's
there
its
are
job,
ways to
though.
there are ways to work with that too and help it
Yeah.
kind of calm down, meditation, things like that. Being in nature, talking to nature. That's my other bit of advice for people, is to acknowledge more and more that everything is conscious. Plants are conscious, the earth is conscious, your computers, like everything, everything. Start with the plants and the animals, because for a lot of people, even like hugging a tree or whatever is like weird. I will stop in the middle of Fort Collins and hug a tree. I'm like, oh my God, hi.
I
Like,
hug
I'm
so many
just like
trees.
that person. But to acknowledge that everything is conscious, that expands your life just manyfold.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we're all doing our best,
Yeah,
and to give yourself the grace with that and just be
of course.
like, know that, doing your best and that it's going to come up. The choosing that in the human experience is just, and as we just keep going, it gets less and less. It will get less, and it will be where you can throw it in the back seat more often and you're the driver.
That's
You
right.
no longer have to be the
That's the
passenger,
purpose,
princess or prince to
right?
your ego. You can be the driver and be like, you're in the back seat. I'm using the front seat for all my snacks. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to use your ego when it's time to use it, right?
Yeah.
It's a tool.
It helps you evolve.
Yeah, as opposed to it having the wheel all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, this was such a good conversation.
so
Thank you
wonderful.
so much. I
Yeah,
will leave our stuff down in the show notes. You guys can look us up if you're interested in dream work. Look her up and see what's that. She's very, very knowledgeable and stuff. So thank you so much for being here with me today.
for
Oh my
having me.
God.
It's been
Oh,
amazing. I
I'm
can't
so
wait to talk
excited.
more.
Oh, yeah. So I'm sending everyone love, light, and authenticity, and have a beautiful now. Bye.
Ready?